This is a 2018 G01 X3 M40i with only 35,000 miles on it. So I noticed it leaking something like radiator fluid, but it's not. Luckily, it's not the water pump. But you want to see some really interesting engineering here? It turns out to be somewhere in the reservoir or in the windshield washer pump. So after pulling off a little bit of interior trim and noticing that it was probably going to be someplace down here, I pull off the inside of the fender well, which is not hard, only to discover that it's buried, the tank and the motor to this whole thing is buried inside the fender. One of the telltale signs that it's the actual washer motor or tank is it leaks right from here, right from this hole, which is right here. In my case, all over the floor. And I kind of didn't notice it because we live in a warmer climate and it evaporated fast, but lately, and it felt like not radiator fluid. So as you can see, it just collects right here, down here below the tank, and drips out this hole right at the bottom. I took off the other inside fender, which is this piece right here. So basically, this is open now too. And then I noticed that there's really only one bolt that is at the top right there for this tank. So basically the tank, that little clip there is holding the bottom of the tank on. It appears to be an anchor point. That anchor is an anchor point for this tank. And this tank is held in place by this and a little bit of creative body molding paneling stuff. Have not taken this fender flare off yet. It doesn't really need it because the actual inner fender well goes pretty nicely in between these two pieces, and with a little maneuvering you can get the whole, you can get these panels out really easily. Those two panels come from inside here. So that's where we're at now. Getting the liners off isn't nearly as bad as it might seem. There's also a liner in the back in the middle that you have to take off too in the process because they're connected. And really, these are just a series of small screws. This is like an 8, a metric 8, or you could also use a US 5/16 to get these off, or however you want to. And then you'll take off about 7 clips. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7 clips. And these are like rivets. You're not going to reuse these. What you do is, what I did, you can drill these out in the middle. They're right there holding on the fender liner. But it's real easy. What I just did was, I just took a punch and a hammer, and they just pop right out. So what happens is you're basically pushing this scrunched up part, you're expanding it, and then once it's expanded, Just get in there with a pry tool or, you know, your favorite screwdriver, and they come right out. So you can buy yourself some room when pulling the tank down by taking some of these accessories off the wall. These are all on screws. Some of them are a little interesting, but this is a pry tool right there. Screwdriver inside this one, pry tool, pry tool. So these are all on screw studs, and simple pry tool and a screwdriver, and those come off, and that'll get us some room when we drop the tank. All right, so we're back. So I took the tank down, which is pretty easy. This is a vent tube at the top, but basically drained into the bucket, and the way this comes down is kind of interesting because this is a piece on the bottom here that I wasn't too sure about. And you see this clip? See that? That's attached to the tank. And the way this works is it kind of leverages into place, and then you roll it out of place. And there's the mount right there on the inside of the frame, and it's just basically rolls in and rolls out of that mount right there. And when you take it down, you'll take it down and you'll pivot it. It'll kind of pivot right off of that mount, and then it will just come right off, and basically that's it. So we've had a look at this now for a couple of minutes, and it's pretty obvious to me what the problem is. So the actual pump has been leaking fluid onto the tank and down. So yeah, we're just going to order a new one of those and put it in, which I imagine will be pretty simple compared to what we've been through already. There we go. There's also a grommet here, which feeds into the tank, pulls off of this. It's up to you whether you pay BMW prices or buy aftermarket ones of these, but I'm going to go for the aftermarket one because I believe it's only 10% of the price. Anyway, so now that it's off, we'll just leave it here until we get the new part in place. Keep in mind this is a pump on a vehicle that only has 35,000 miles on it, and the pump is rarely ever used. It doesn't rain where I live, really. I live in the desert. So it may be due to inactivity, who knows? Also, I kind of noticed that even though I have a floor jack over here and a jack stand here, that I was kind of being stupid. It's pretty important that you actually block the tires on the back. Just pointing that out as a precautionary. So we got the old one out, and I'm half tempted to use glue on the new part because the design is the same, which kind of means like maybe there's going to be the same problem. I don't know. At any rate, this little motor, it doesn't really have any clips that hold it in place. So I've kind of like put it as far as I can that direction. The box came with a couple of small rubber grommets that are both identical. I originally tried it with one of these on there, but it butted up against the actual grommet that was here and kind of prevented this from getting pushed too very far in to where I knew it was, based on the picture I took originally from the first one. So in order for this to go all the way in, I don't think you can have one of these grommets even if you push it all the way down here. And so I've eliminated that piece, which it came with. Other than that, we're gonna look at sewing this thing back together now. I'm probably gonna fill it with water now and test it to see if it leaks. But other than that, it should go right back up. So when we put the tank back, we're going to drop it right on and mount inside the fender well, that piece of metal that it mounts on, and we're going to pivot it up into place. And then you know it's in place when that little groove is sitting inside the mount. So when it comes to the rivets, you don't reuse these. As you can see, they're compressed in this area, and then with the new ones, I've got a lot of them. Your goal is to do the same thing, and that is to pull this piece back down and compress this to broke it out like that. So there's many ways you can do this, but I'm going to try to do this the inexpensive way using a pry tool, a set of pliers, and then clip it with a set of wire snips. And then as far as positioning, just drop it in there like that. Give it something to pivot against, like a pry tool, and then just pull it straight out as far as you can like that. And you'll see there's a place that is meant to be snipped. Now I got both hands full here, so I'm not going to be able to zoom, but when it's pulled all the way out like that, you should be able to see a physical place where it's meant to be clipped off. And so I'm just going to use wire snips. That's just going to be the way I put these in. So yeah, cozy the piece in, anchor it in a few places until it's the right place, wedge this back in there, and work your way up. So we'll do that now. When you're pulling off this trim from the inside of the engine compartment, it's pretty simple. These pins are pretty easy to use. Essentially, you'll see it and they're already closed like that. And you just take a screwdriver and you pry this up into this position, and then these little rivet things, these come right out. And so when you put them back, you just do the opposite. You just put these back down. There's about 7 or 8 of those, and that holds all the trim pieces on the inside of the engine compartment. Now we're done putting it all back together now, and we had a couple challenges. The plastic wants to go together like a little jigsaw puzzle or something, but we're now filling it back up. And I bought this part off of FCP Euro, but it can be found anywhere. This is the Febby Bilstein one, which looks identical to the factory one. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's it. I'm not gonna lie, this took about 4 hours of my time, and 1 full hour was spent getting that fender piece into place. So it's not really that bad. I just made it worse because I didn't know the tricks, and there was a couple tricks there. Anyway, I hope this helps perhaps at least one person do it themselves, maybe answered a question along the way. But that's it. Thanks.